you are in our world. It's another episode of Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible with your host, myself, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. So, we are continuing on with our Miraculous Healing series. And like we have brought from weeks past, we have special guests that come on. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Emma Skilton, and she is from across the pond in the UK. And what is interesting is that sometimes people think that healing has to look a certain way, like you go to the doctor and, get a prescription and get a procedure and, that's it. But you know what? Healing is more than that. And what I'm going to share with you is about our special guest. And Emma she has a very diverse background in the arts, nutritional therapy. She's a dancer. She likes samba, and she's into holistic therapy. And she provides unique and tailored programs for clients that want to experience greater health and vitality. Her journey started in her 20s after reading Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and You Can Heal Your Life, which opened her to self-development and potential to support other people through coaching. She's integrated her passion for dance and exercise to boost confidence and mental well-being in her workshops. Her interest in gut health led her to a 21-day gut reset program for overall well-being and a support group she's called She's Got Guts. I love the name. She's qualified as one of many certified women's coaches, offering exceptional coaching and effective tools. Like I said, she lives in Cornwall, the UK, with her husband and dog, and they love to experience the coastline regularly. So, she's going to talk about her gut health, and her healing journey started basically with a couple of hardships in her life. One of them, she broke her back when she was 21, and I can't wait to hear more about this story because this is a very interesting one. She lost her confidence and physical abilities, but after months of recovery and doing Aikido, she started getting her physical strength back. She later developed chronic fatigue and needed to take a full year off to recover. That's a long time, but good for you for doing what you've done, because look at where you are now. She started using nutrition and acupuncture to gain her strength back, and later started dancing. So I'm just going to allow Emma to share the rest of her story and to inspire, empower, and also to transform the audience. So it's welcome, Emma. I'm so excited to have you here. So wow, what a journey. Oh my God, breaking your back. Tell us more about that and what that was all about.
Oh, goodness. Well, that was very unexpected. I was in the south of France working when I was in as a student. So I was having the summer earning money, looking after someone else's children, and got taken horse riding and managed to fall off the horse and thought I'd just winded myself, to be honest, and then realised after loads of x-rays that I'd actually got a compression fracture in my spine. So
Oh
I
dear.
repatriated and flown back home to the UK, much to my parents' horror. And they moved while I was in hospital in France, so I didn't actually know where they'd moved to. So this is a story that's carried on through the family for years, because I regularly tell people that my parents actually moved while I was in France and didn't tell me where they moved to.
Well, that was interesting.
But they were happy to have me. That was fine. But so that was a bit of a shocker. And but I'm a very determined person, so I didn't want to miss out on the degree. I was doing an arts degree at the time, so fortunately it happened in the summer. So I was well enough to go back to university by the September. So 6 to 10 weeks later, maybe I started the term a bit late, but it was a challenging time. And it was all around a period where I was sort of looking into self-development, partly to sort of build my confidence through university. I found myself having a lot of insecurities doing an arts degree and always thinking that I was the worst in the class.
Well, like many of us, we have a tendency to beat ourselves up, but continue.
Yes, yes. So there was a sort of little moment, I think, where in my early 20s I became quite accident prone, and I decided I needed to start looking after myself better. So there was the first sort of moment of this kind of light bulb moment of, actually, I need to look after myself better. How am I going to do that? Firstly, maybe not horse ride for a while, but actually looking at the way I was living my life. So the way I was eating, the way I was not particularly respecting my own body in the way that I do now. And perhaps that's quite common in our early 20s, where we think we're invincible. But there were a few moments that I had that kind of wake up. And the second time that happened was then after I finished university. I decided I wanted to go traveling, which was amazing. And I did go for a year traveling. But while I was away, I became really unwell and ended up with chronic fatigue and had to come home from Australia early. So again, I had to really dig deep and look at how I was going to really get my life back on track. And I didn't want to go down a traditional medical route. And you mentioned that in your introduction. I decided to use diet, and an amazing person I met who did acupuncture, who was phenomenal, actually. And probably without that support as well, I may not have recovered as quickly as I did.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. The acupuncture, I myself have used it for my own health challenges, and that was actually the coup de grace that like pretty much shifted everything for me. And it's so interesting because being trained in Western medicine, a lot of times, especially early on, like going back 40 years ago, this was kind of frowned upon. But look at it in the big sense. It's been around for 5,000 years. Obviously, it must have some benefit. It's working. So, good for you for, putting your tentacles out and exploring that and having a great experience with that. So tell me more. The acupuncture, and so you recovered from that. And
yeah, and at the time I was on actually quite a restrictive diet. So fortunately for me, the person I was having the acupuncture with was quite used to working with, because it sort of transpired that the chronic fatigue was probably coming from gut problems, which are probably quite common when you're traveling through Asia and not living in the most hygienic circumstances. And but I was in a lot of pain, and so I wasn't really eating, because whenever I ate I was in a lot of pain. So I was in this vicious circle. And the consultant I'd seen through the GP was saying, oh, you need more fibre, it's irritable bowel. And I was feeling like, this doesn't seem right, because the way I eat, I was vegetarian at the time. I ate a lot of vegetables and fruits and fresh foods. I didn't eat really much processed food. So it just wasn't making sense to me what I was being told. And then it was actually the acupuncturist that said, you really need to imagine that your insides are kind of imagine they've got scabs, because they're so sore, they're trying to recover. And if you cut yourself on the surface, you see it where a scab starts to form, and then the body's healing underneath. So the way I was visualizing it was, that's what was happening inside my body. And every time I was having too much fiber, it was kind of irritating and taking those scabs off, and then leaving the raw sore parts of my body again. So I went on a no raw food diet, no wheat, no dairy, no sugar, obviously no alcohol. So basically only cooked fruit and vegetables. I could eat meat, but I didn't really eat meat at the time. And over time, it really made the difference. And I was already aware of the importance of the gut microbiome. So I was eating live yogurt, using probiotics to really attempt to get my gut flora back into a balance. When I look back now, which this is over 30 years ago, it's all very intuitive. So it was something that I just brought into my daily routines. And it's only really in the last 5 years where we've had so much more awareness, and there's so much more online available because of the research that's out there. The internet just makes everything so much more accessible. So in a way, I wish I knew what I know now all those years ago, because at the time it seemed a bit way out doing that.
Well, you know, sometimes you're more of a pioneering spirit and you're more of a explorer, and you know, you were intuitive enough to know that something else was happening. So, you know, kudos to you for listening to yourself, because you were getting your inner wisdom that was leading you and leaning you in the direction that you needed to go. And to listen to that is just huge. It's like it's tapping into your secret sauce, basically, because it'll give you everything that you need. And you know what's so uniquely different for each one of us individually, what you're sharing, Emma, is unique to you, and what I would be sharing would be unique to me. Everybody's so unique. They're going to have their own story and their own way to get to that. The unfortunate thing is that in Western medicine, they have a tendency to label things and try to fit everybody, you know, into this box that, you know, they have no business fitting into this box, because that's not how they manifested their condition. Because I think there's so much behind the scenes that we aren't aware of, like the emotions, our connectedness with ourselves, you know, what we say to ourselves, our self-talk, and our beliefs, and how we cope with stress, in addition to nutrition and our environmental things. They all come into play with that. So it's like really, really important just to, you know, as an individual, just tap into that. And I'm so happy to see that you did that. That's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you mentioned the emotional state, because it did tie in at the time of really realizing that there were emotional connections that I'd not resolved, and
Mm.
needed to actually dig quite deep and work on those in order to, I think, help me heal. I think it's amazing how much, if we don't express emotion at the time when we feel it, how it will internalize and can affect us physically. And that's something that I've continued to explore over the years and brought in with my coaching. Is, like you say, everyone's different. So what might work for me wouldn't necessarily work for someone else in the same way. But it's that getting below the surface and really understanding the emotional connection to the physical, and treat the physical as well. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, like in Western medicine, we have this tendency to, and I said it earlier when I introduced you, prescribe, do a procedure, and, you know, next, and that's it. And it's about really going deeper and looking underneath the hood of the car, if you want to call it that. Because, you know, and this is an interesting thing too that probably people don't realize. If you have a vehicle, your car is very synonymous to your physical body. Okay. If you ever start having problems like with your electrical system, look at your nervous system and you physically. Or if you're having problems with the fluids in your car, like the battery or the gas, see where you're getting, you know, your nourishment and where you're leaking. Because sometimes people could be siphoning your gas out of your tank without knowing it. And that's like siphoning your energy, basically. So there's a whole different topic, and that's for another conversation. But it's so interesting that, you know, people are starting to realize that there's more going on than what we could physically see. And, you know,
yes,
it's all energy. So I'm really pleased that you bring that aspect into your coaching, because I think it's so essential.
yeah, and I think what I've noticed more recently is that the current climate, where we're in a world of fast food, quick food,
Yeah.
easy
Yeah.
food, I've really started to focus now, as well as the gut, is how to really educate people the difference between a pure food and a highly processed food,
Mm.
because a lot of processed foods have ingredients in that are really not good for our gut flora. and they can even be marketed as healthy foods.
True. Very true.
Field. So I'm on a bit of a mission, to be honest, of really helping my clients who want to work on their gut health, because we know there's the connection with our mental well-being as well as our physical well-being, is really understanding their food choices and their emotional connection to those choices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, we're probably in the state of health. I know here in the United States, we have a pandemic of obesity. And, I really feel that there's a lot of emotional eating that goes on. And it's, when you look at those components of what's driving you to eat and overeat, in addition to maybe not making the best choices, I think that's something that people need to be more aware of in order to, have a deep down in, grassroots conversation with themselves, and like, how do I want to treat myself? How do I want to get better? And sometimes you have to be more self-aware than you've ever been,
I'm an emotional eater.
Right here too.
It was quite a thing to have that real acknowledgement and really accept, okay, I realize this is is my weakness.
Yeah.
And I've had to work hard, and I'm very aware when I'm doing it. And if I am doing it, then I try and make it so that I'm not sort of comfort eating on the really rubbish stuff.
So, but you know what? That's the stuff that tastes so good,
That's the problem. They've made like that on purpose to make you eat more of it. Do you have, I don't know if they're called the same thing in the US. Do you have Pringles?
We've had them like before. I know I've had them before. Pringles, yeah. They're like corn chips or something, or
they're like a special potato formed. I suppose you call them potato chips, don't you?
Yeah.
We call them crisps. But there's a slogan that, you have one and you can't stop.
Yeah, you just can't eat one. Yeah.
And they're designed specifically for that.
Well,
it's like,
Emma, talk about marketing, and you know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, it's just really interesting.
yeah. It's been a really interesting sort of new arena that I'm finding myself moving towards, because through my experience with people that I'm supporting in a group that I run, it's really apparent that often people think they're making healthy choices, and then when we unpick the ingredients, we realize that there's ingredients in there that really aren't that healthy. So I feel like I'm on a mission to educate people so they're making informed choice. And it's not to say never have the junk, because let's face it, some of it is yummy. But have it knowing what you're eating, and have it, and enjoy it. Guilt-free.
Yeah. This is an interesting thing. I'm just going to share this briefly. I've noticed that, I've been really mindful about watching, what I'm eating and consuming. And I actually do a lot of my own meal prep at home. I rarely go out now because I just don't know what's in the food. And at least if I'm cooking it and I buy it, I know what I'm getting. Yes. But I also noticed too, my weakness is drinking Diet Coke, but Diet Coke has like the artificial sweetener. And I've noticed that was the only thing I changed. And then I started gaining weight. So it's interesting that those artificial sweeteners have, for me, that's how it works. It creates a weight gain. So, when you start really paying attention to the details of what you're consuming and how you're doing this, you could find the little tweaks. Oh, this isn't working. So it's just like, I got to shelf this because this is not, even though it just like tastes so good sometimes when it's really cold. And it's just like, and it's really hot out. It's like, you just crave it, but it's just like, yeah, so that's my secret addiction. So Emma, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and being on the show. And, tell us more about how people could get in contact with you, and you mentioned about your group, She's Got Guts. Tell us more about that.
So She's Got Guts is a group on Facebook that I started in 2020. So actually during lockdown, because I'm supporting people remotely with the Gut Reset program and sending out the kits and supporting people. And then I felt that I wanted to have a group where people could come in and be accountable, but also they didn't have to be doing the program to join the group. They just would want to gain some knowledge, have some support, and actually in a way get to know me a bit better, because you want to have some kind of connection if you're going to have a coach.
Absolutely.
And so I felt like it was a really nice way of giving something back to the community, but also giving people the chance to get to know me. So in the future, if they ever felt that they wanted coaching from me on a one-to-one or part of a group, then they had that confidence that they kind of know a little bit about what they're getting. So in the group, we run sugar-free challenges. I regularly talk about different foods. That for the latest one we were talking about was oat milks.
Oh,
so
yeah.
A lot of people come off dairy and start using an alternative plant-based milk, thinking they're being healthier, and this particular oat milk has all the oils and various other ingredients that it's not going to do your gut any good. So what I'm trying to do is keep bringing back in that enjoy your food, but be mindful about what you're putting together. It doesn't need to be complicated. And there's recipes in there, and there's lots of discussion. And I also bring in the kind of mindset element as well, because sometimes, especially with the sugar-free, if someone's really got that feeling that they can't live without sugar, they're going to have to really work on their mental side as well. Sure. To keep them on track.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a free group, and anyone can join. There is a questions that I ask people to be allowed to let in, just to keep out any rogue members.
Oh, the rogue ones. Yes, there is. Yeah.
And then on my website, I've got some free downloads. So there's a lifestyle analysis that people can do, which looks at how effective your systems in your body are functioning. And that is linked to the Gut Reset program. It gives a kind of overview in the moment of how well the body's operating, and also a selection of sugar-free and gut-friendly recipe ideas specifically for breakfast and snacks and lunches, mainly salads that could be eaten on their own or used as an accompaniment to, say, if someone was having a barbecue and they want some nice gut-friendly salads, they could have that on the side.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for the information, and also for being here and sharing your story. And Emma, as we're closing, what is one thing important thing you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh, I would say just try and eat as fresh as you can. So I always feel like it's sort of as it came off the tree or out of the sea or from the land. And if you look on the ingredients in the packet and it's not something you would normally find in your kitchen, then it's probably not meant to be in there.
True that. Well, wise words from a very wise woman. So Emma, thank you so much for being part of our show today. And I want to thank the audience for coming in and listening. And if you are the type of person that has a tendency to be in your head and not grounded in your physical body or in the present moment, I have something for you. It's a free meditation that I put together that allows you to be in the present moment. And you could get that at my website, drdoloresfazzino.com/free-video. And lastly, I have some news to share with everybody. Today is actually my final episode with Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible. But wait, there's more. I will be the new host of the Dr. Dolores Show on the Inspired Choices Network. Starting today at 12 noon is our first episode, and there is the link there below. So I invite you to, if you like what you hear on this show, to carry on and go there, because it'll be expanded and it's going to be even more juicy and yummy about healing in ways you never thought possible, but we're going to talk about spirituality and also energy and everything that is unconventionally therapeutic in tandem with Western medicine. So anyway, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the 36 episodes that we had here with our Miraculous Healing series, and thank you, Emma, for being here as well. So we're signing off, and talk to you soon.